a lot of these bands in
They got
just the
some-
last couple of years.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, we are here at the Wizards Council. We are back. It's live now. So we are convening once more. We were just talking about the doom metal, incidentally to the topic, which is the 70s, the brilliance of the 70s, which is a topic, which is a subject I fought for my whole life. It feels like, because that for some reason everyone thinks in their mind that it was shit or something. And I don't get that at all. And like doom metal, like we just happened to be discussing doom metal. That's just a great thing to start with, even because like that's obviously like doom metal was like metal that sort of it's going on. Oh no, it's gone. You know, tried to harken back a little bit when metal was going off in all different directions. They kind of stepped back and said, no, we want to be more purely Black Sabbath-y. Really, what other major influence would you say? I don't know, but that type of stuff.
I think that's why I've been so drawn to doom metal in my examination recently as well. Again, it's like there's just great kind of heaviness, that kind of wonderful riff work, and the kind of thing you'd expect from an Iommi, you know. So it's it's been good fun digging into.
What are your favorite bands? Favorite doom metal bands?
Oh, no, and you got. Do you know what? I've been writing names down all week, and I've left them. It's in the car. If you name some, I'll see if I've heard them.
Frank, are you up in your doom metal?
Actually, one of my favorite doom metal bands I discovered a couple years ago was Lucifer's Fall.
I've heard the name, but I don't know the music. Is it new or old?
Yeah, they're very good. You gotta check them out.
Is it like a current band, or from the 90s or something?
Yeah, it's current. They're current, but have a very classic sound to them. You know,
heavy name, yeah.
Great stuff there.
That's great. I must look it up.
I was looking today at my very basic research was I was looking at albums that had been released in the 70s, metal albums for my own personal bias. But there was an incredible raft of them that came from almost in reaction to punk, I suppose, in some ways. But you've got albums like I think in 78, 79, you had Highway to Hell for AC/DC, but you had Motorhead did Overkill, and then at the end of the year they released Bomber, so 2 great albums in 1 year. The Scorpions released what was it called? Anyway, there was a whole raft of them, and it was an incredible time, that sort of period, for not just the kind of the stuff that came out of the 60s into the 70s, but the stuff that came out of that period and then went on to would
that be the Scorpions album with Charon or whatever? That era? That 70s, right?
It's the album with the woman and the guy in the cab, and she's got gum on a bare breast, and it's covering her nipple as he's pulling his hand away. I can't think what it's called.
All right. I don't know Scorpions all that well. I do like their 70s stuff the best, though.
Yeah.
Myself, from what I've heard. I haven't heard that much.
But it's interesting. What you said there about a lot of people have a kind of a downer on the 70s. I've always seen, I mean, I know there's a big thing for the 80s along younger people, but I don't know. I think there's quite a lot of nostalgia for it too.
There is.
I guess for us younger people, right? I was born in the 80s, so I never lived through the 70s. So currently the nostalgia is for the eras that us 30s and 40s have lived through. So it's 80s and 90s is the big nostalgia. And but I've noticed that the 70s are being rediscovered in a way in the new wave of traditional heavy metal, for example. That's like a bunch of bands that are trying to play metal in the old school way, right? Inspired by primarily 80s stuff, but more recently I've also seen a couple bands throw back to 70s styles, obviously with Sabbath as a big influence, but also other more proto-metal hard rock styles. There's a bunch that I found a while ago that are really pretty good. What's one of them called? Yeah, there's one called Parish.
Yeah,
Um,
I've heard them.
and there's one called
I've remembered a name. Yes.
I think Riders of Rohan. Yeah, I think they're called Riders of Rohan. They do very nice, upbeat 70s style hard rock into early metal, with two vocalists, one male and female, and
Right.
they do Lord of the Rings themed albums.
That's like
very good stuff.
right. And that reminds, I was thinking of Pagan Altar was a band that was in the 70s,
Yeah.
came out in the 70s. But then they came back, was it the 90s or even 2000 or something like that? They came back and they actually
I think
sounded pretty much
2000s
exactly.
they were active again. Yeah.
And they sounded like identical, I thought. But like then there was all those weird, I think one of the first weird like bands of the 60s to go all weird was it even what's the one with the song Sabbath? We're going to the Sabbath. Satan's there. What's that fucking Black Widow? You ever hear that? Because it's like hippie flute music basically, but then it's got this satanic theme, and it's kind of heavy and a weird kind of what kind of way? Arthur Brownish or something like. It's just kind of bizarre, but it was definitely heading in that direction, and I believe they're one of the first to be kind of like that. Didn't they? They predated Black Sabbath, if I'm not mistaken. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Maybe I think. Yeah, because I was looking at the Sabbath were getting into the their shift about 69, so they were doing the kind of Dennis Wheatley Devil stuff, changed the name from Earth in 69. So
yeah. So they were, but they sounded like a lot like a 60s band, which is funny because this is why the 70s was so great.
There's one I gotta look it up because now that we're talking about this, I remember I think they were called Coven.
Coven, yeah. Coven, a great band. Yeah. They're excellent. Yeah.
They also started out late 60s and then really came.
And they were very satanic. They were actually, I think they were genuinely. They might have been like a Merciful Fate guy. They were maybe I could be wrong. I believe the rumor was they were actual Satanists or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that we are love anything satanic or anything like that, but that just it happened to be that was their way of being edgy. I don't think Black Widow were genuine Satanists either. They just had that particular song was quite.
It's kind of like with how black metal became in the 90s, right? They were also doing the Satanist thing for edginess.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly in the counterculture era, all that stuff was in vogue anyway. The black magic, and you had I think Colin Wilson had brought his book out I think it was in the 70s. Yeah, the occult. So I mean, it was all very much in vogue. People were fascinated by it, and I guess in many ways that's a reaction to the increasing materialism. Every time you have an increase in materialism, there's a kickback, in some form or other. And that was big that period.
Maybe, yeah. Because even Jimmy Page, Led Zeppelin, he was doing all that.
Oh God, yeah.
Alistair Crowley stuff,
Yeah, well, he bought Crowley's house, didn't he, on Loch Ness? I think Page.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. I forgot that. Yeah, shit, that would be a spooky house to sleep in, to live in. Imagine like.
According to legend, yeah, Crowley didn't complete the ritual that he was doing when he was living there. He went off and did other things and left it. So apparently the gateway's still open, and that's the problem with that.
Well, Page is still alive. Page didn't get sucked into the vortex or whatever. But what was I going to say? So the topic then of the 70s and why I wanted to discuss it. So I always felt, me and my friend back home in Canada, we always loved everything 70s-ish. We grew up in the 80s, but we always saw these excellent things from the 70s. And it seemed like everybody you talked to, the boomerish people, that always think of it negatively. They'd be like, all they would remember was they'd complain about the bell bottoms in disco. And they'd be like, oh shit, it was terrible. But there was so much good stuff. And like people generally kind of overlook it, I think, a bit. I think it's silly or I don't know what. But if you really think about the most impactful movies and music, just those two things alone, let's say. I mean, we're talking about just about the best of the best that ever was, right? You can list off so many of things. And I think it was because they were the inheritors of the what began in the 60s with the sort of psychedelic rebellious and what you're saying about, interest in Eastern or forbidden spiritualities and things, and that sort of in whatever way the 60s kind of died and petered out in, say, 1968, there was still whatever energy they created. It really created the 70s. It's like, wasn't just not just music and that, like, in terms of literature, as writers, all three of us, a lot of the best, like, crazy science fiction, crazy horror. I mean, this is past, Lovecraft's age, but still there was a lot of really, really inspired, bizarre stuff.
Yeah, I think in this regard, what makes the 70s interesting is that they were sort of the decade where this cultural underground was born, right? In the 60s, you have this stuff still going, like starting out to get into the mainstream, but then it starts to get buried as the 70s come along, but it builds up its own little underground subculture. And we're essentially still in that way. The stuff we do, the stuff we like, it's all in the underground. And in the 70s, that underground was born.
Yeah. And if you look at the 70s movies and 70s TV shows, it's the first of those decades that's discernible. It's the first, like, it's got an absolute style to it. You can always tell, oh, this is 70s, whatever, right? All that's died after the 90s. We don't have that anymore. But, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s is very discernible, each of them. But the 70s was the first of them, I think, to be very much like, we can relate to it. It's very much like Modern Living still, even though they had, like, nicer cars and, things were... I think things were generally better almost across the board. But you see a show from the 70s, you can relate to how their people are, how they're talking. They don't have the strange mannerisms, let's say, of people from the 50s or even the 60s so much. They're very modern. I think it's the beginning of whatever we became after with the 70s. But it was still a good and fertile 10 years of crazy, adventurous. It was what do they call it? The sexual revolution of the hippies. Really came to pass and flourished in the 70s for, good and bad, admittedly. But still, there's this you've got an excellent collection of these Eurotrash, softcore porn, very stylish and, compared to what you have now, in terms of just like beautiful women and things, I'm a fan of that as well. But I just want to say,
I should have looked it up probably, but didn't the heavy metal magazine in France come out in the 70s?
Yeah. And in America, the first American one was 70, I think. End of the 70s, maybe. I have the first issue somewhere.
1974 is when they started. Yeah. So that's the golden age of European comics, right?
A lot of stuff was 73 and 74. Whenever I look into something really amazing that I find from the 70s, I find 73 and 74. And this is like for music, for everything. Don't ask me why. Those years. But it's like everything's inherited from the decade before. Because even I remember seeing the interview with Poison Ivy from the Cramps, right? And they're into their 50s rock and roll shit. That was cool too. That was actually the beginning of a real underground thing. All the crazy, what's the crazy Little Richard and all those. There's a whole scene of like crazy people involved in the original rock and roll. And I remember seeing an interview with her saying her favorite decade was the 60s, but only because in so much as the 60s was carrying on that tradition in the 50s of these weird hillbilly rock and roll guys. Not the hippie stuff. She wasn't into the hippie stuff. So in that same sense, the 70s continued on certain traditions begun in the 60s and really saw them to their summit, let's say. That's how I see it.
Well, there was still room for experimentation and the building upon what had happened. So you have like in music, when Queen did Bohemian Rhapsody, and I think it's something like 6 minutes long or whatever, and the producers go, "No, well, it's too long. You got to cut it." And they said, "No, it'll never sell. No one will buy it." But there was still that room to do that kind of thing. And I think I've said to you before, Brendan, about Monty Python. There was when they pitched it, it was just the guy said, "Well, go and make 20, 14 or 7 episodes or whatever it is, and we'll see how it goes."
Yeah.
I mean, it's
do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like imagine that now.
There was a huge freedom. And also, I think the other thing in my own kind of world that I love, in the speculative world, if you like, in the 70s, you had people like Robert Holmes and Malcolm Hulke writing for Doctor Who, and a guy called Bob Baker, and they were writing for people like John Pertwee and then Tom Baker, and they were fantastic episodes, and it was it was gripping, good drama and well acted, very and the because that's the other thing is that you had
Is that your favorite? Let me just say, is that your favorite era of Doctor Who? John Pertwee?
Yeah,
it is. Oh,
yeah,
really?
John Pertwee was I can't remember Patrick Troughton.
I don't remember. I don't really go earlier than him. I like some of his. I only saw the last part of the series with him, but then I was always a fan of the Tom Baker's always the classic, I thought.
And Tom Baker, yeah. For me, it was like those two.
All right.
That was anyway, but there were some great, great stories like Horror at Fang Rock, or there was a whole series of really good, The Demons with Pertwee and so on. Yeah. So that often they matched folk horror with science fiction and that sort of thing. It's Nigel Neal.
Who's that?
It's very Nigel Neal in that sense.
Who's Nigel Neal, science fiction author?
He wrote Quatermass, and he did Baby, which was a horror series in the 70s, and
so you know the shit. You know that BBC.
Not really.
70s. Well, I know. I know things like the Stone Tapes, but I wouldn't know the names of the writers or anything. Like I'm a fan of it, but I don't know it like as well as you do. You're a great resourceful.
No, well, Nigel Neal's the guy. I mean, he was a brilliant writer, and he did loads of them, and so what you have is you've got these really good writers who are working for television channels, or, whether they're working for the channel or they're writing freelance, but whatever. And then you've got the actors that they're using are like Shakespearean actors and stage actors.
That exaggerated.
They're brilliant.
It was so good.
So you're guaranteed good stories and good acting, and that's across the board, not just in horror and science fiction and so on, but in drama and everything. And the same applies to comedy. In terms of and I'm only talking from a British point of view, but I think there are probably parallels in other cultures. You have
Frank is in Germany. I don't know, Frank. What's your awareness of this kind of stuff? And is there like a German version of 70s Doctor Who that we don't know of? Or
I'm not that knowledgeable about TV shows in general, but I do remember there's one movie I watched with my pal. That's a 70s German TV movie called the Million Game, where it's about a game show, like a fictional game show, where a guy has to run from a group of hired killers, and if he survives until the end, he wins 1 million German marks. And they filmed the whole movie to come across as an actual game show. Like they put advertisement breaks into it and everything. Cool. And that was in the 70s. And the fun thing is, like, the next day, the TV station actually got several letters from people who wanted to apply for the show. Also, they got, of course, angry letters about how, this is terrible, like, you can't do this kind of shit. And they also mixed in scenes of a reporter being on the street asking passers-by what they think of the concept, which is all part of the movie, of course, right? So it's very cool, very great film. It feels very realistically conveyed, right? Like, you still gonna know it's a movie, but enough people were fooled, and it's very fascinating that several people actually wanted to be the protagonist in there. Like, yeah, I can win $1 million. Well, I risk being killed, but
there's probably like tons of shows that you're not aware of. Like, I'm sure there's like German equivalent to the BBC shit, probably of the era. They probably had a lot of experimental, because they would be even in America, but back in the day, they would be experimental. I just watched one I hadn't seen since I was a kid. What's it called? The Horrorless tapes or the something tapes? Ever seen that horror thing? And it's a 70s thing. This guy,
American TV
pilot of a show that never got taken up, sort of like a Kojak the Night Stalker thing, where the guy investigates supernatural shit, and he hooks up with this woman, and she says her husband's turned into a zombie, and he's terrorizing the town, killing people, and it's actually quite scary. There's scenes where he's like a scary jump scare thing, where like the woman's looking at a curtain, and she pulls back the curtain, and he's there behind the window, but it was effective. And it turns out he's building a blood god. He's been making a sculpture with blood from people that he's been killing to bring this god or demon to life. And it's, it was not your typical TV. You wouldn't have guessed, but back then, it was there.
Was he an artist?
Well, the zombie guy was.
Yeah.
You've seen this, haven't you?
I don't know. I'm just, when you said about he was building this blood god, but that might be something else.
The Something Tapes, anyways. It's cool.
Yeah.
That had Angie Dickinson in it. It was always pretty hot. But I bet you, I remember seeing there's footage of Motorhead playing in Germany. What's the station? Something Z or something. I forget, anyways. But it looked cool. They just had a bunch of German metalheads, and it was just like cool and experimental. I don't know. That would be Motorhead playing live on TV in Germany in the 70s. So there you go. If they would do that, God knows what else they did. I'm sure they did lots of good stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that movie is the only one I'm really aware of cool stuff that we made in Germany. I also just found it by random chance, so high chances are that we get more cool stuff made here. I mean, also when we talk about fantasy and sci-fi and stuff in the 70s, right? That's the decade when role-playing games were invented, right? With Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, you good old Gary Gygax.
Yeah.
The Gygax.
You got the root of all the stuff that we do today in the 70s.
Yeah, it's that was born out of that game that
Chainmail.
What was the original game? There was a game that was around for ages before that. What's his name from the Hammer Horror?
Yeah, Chainmail, the wargaming thing.
Is that what it was called? I thought it was called something else.
Oh,
Chris, you probably know.
Yeah. Well, Peter Cushing used to do
you had a big war map. You had a big war map.
Yeah, and it was there was I can't remember. It was H.G. Wells had written the rules. I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, that was.
But I remember seeing. I saw. Do you ever see the 70s British show Callan, the spy guy who's killing people?
Yeah.
There's an episode on that. Yeah, Edward Woodward. Yeah, it was a great show. Another excellent 70s, hard boiled, it's gritty. He's killing people, and he's supposed to move for his country, like James Bond, but he's actually kind of torn up with guilt about it, and he's kind of just I don't know. It's just good, excellent. But there's an episode of that where it's all about this game. He's into that game, and it shows him going to these clubs, big fancy places, big Roman pillars in the front of it, and these big game tables. So it was obviously a big deal. That game. I forget the name of it, and they're all it was, it wasn't like a small thing, tiny, fringe hobbyist thing. And he was going to people's houses, and to be a rich guy, and he'd flick a panel, and he'd have a screen, and then his his game table of the landscape would come up, and he'd have his miniatures in a nice little box, and so they were taking it seriously back then. And that was the precursor to what Gygax just took that and made it more. Sort of, he had more. It was just wargaming, I guess. So he added the fantasy, and the whole. And so much more of it became your imagination than literally moving figures around on the grid or whatever.
But what a brilliant step!
Exactly, yeah, a good example of 70s ingenuity. Something we've lost entirely. Because then okay, so the 80s then also was a very discernible decade, and also very good. And you can make arguments that. Some of what was started in the 70s was even improved on in the 80s as well. But I don't think it was quite as fertile ground somehow. And again, you get accused of nostalgia, but I was very young in the 70s. I don't really remember it. I have a tiny vague memory of being babysit in Vancouver in the 70s. And my babysitters were these beautiful women, and they were listening to Led Zeppelin. And I remember that. And being like, whoa, this is cool. But really, I grew up in the 80s. These hot chicks and blah, blah, blah.
Alive in the 70s, but whenever I discover something that's from that decade, right? I think it's cool. And I don't think I've discovered anything 70s that wasn't great so far.
Yeah, even the disco. I do like. I love. I
Even the
like
disco, I
ABBA.
love the disco. Yes,
There's some
pop
good disco.
music back then, genuinely like 60s, 70s, 80s. I like that stuff. Um, and I wish we could return to the days when pop music was actually good
because they
compared
had to
to
be
Not
able
so
to
offensive.
sing. They had to be able to sing and play their instruments, and
yeah.
you know, and they were generally good songwriters too. You know,
Oh yeah, right. ABBA 70s, right?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I was going to use ABBA as an example. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a great ABBA fan, but I can appreciate that they make catchy, good music that people love to listen to. And good on them. Well, good luck to them.
John Gora says women were hotter in the 70s, Bush and all. Yes. Someone says Minder was a great TV show. I never heard of that. Chris, you ever heard of Minder?
Yeah, yeah.
I
Dennis
never.
Waterman.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. What's that about?
So he was the minder. He was the bodyguard of George Cole. George Cole was the kind of fast dealing guy who was always on the make, and Dennis Waterman was his bodyguard. So they got into scrapes and things.
Okay.
Yeah, there was
That's
what
cool.
was the other one? The Sweeney. Do you remember the Sweeney? That was a good
Oh,
70s
I saw a movie of
top
it.
show.
I saw a movie version of it recently, but I never actually saw the show.
Yeah, it was
But I
good
watched
because
the
at
movie.
the time, it was what you said. It was considered to be very gritty. I mean, how
Yeah.
realistic it was, I don't know, but
They were doing a lot of drinking and smoking. I remember that. They were smoking their face off through the whole thing.
Yep,
You know?
absolutely.
Yeah, that's something you don't see in movies anymore. Like whenever I see an old movie, I kind of miss the atmosphere of everyone just having a smoke indoors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to endorse smoking, but yeah, absolutely. There was a different kind of vibe, which had the ideas of the kind of chic stuff, the 007 of the 50s and 60s, leached out through into the 70s and took on new forms like Roger Moore's James Bond, for example. Just became a different kind of form. And you had Jason King as well. I'm talking about TV all the time, aren't I? But there was all these kinds of these cultural figures which epitomized the aspirations, at least, of the era.
Mm.
And
There was
if
just
you
more
go from
freedom.
TV to movies, you can look at stuff like Taxi Driver, right? Which brought
Yeah.
the whole idea of that gritty stuff to the big screen.
I love a 70s movie like even Taxi Driver, just because just because it'd be randomly a totally racist comment for no reason, utterly racist scene just thrown in there, just I don't know, just great realism, I think. I don't know. But so many of them would have it and it'd be like, oh shit, that's so funny. Compared to when like today, like you just wouldn't. I remember watching The Godfather with my extremely politically correct sister-in-law, and she just froze up. There's a scene in The Godfather where the mafia guys are meeting, and at one point one of the dons says, "Oh, but we won't deal with the Africans because they're animals with no souls," or something like that. Just randomly throws this pointless dialogue in there. I just felt her tensing up, like, oh, she couldn't believe it. And she's like, "This is a classic."
I know
movie.
it, but it's mad,
I was
isn't
like,
it?
yeah.
It's you can't differentiate between a part where someone might be acting insufferably or whatever they're doing, but they're just acting. It's a role. It's a character. It's not it's not a party political broadcast, or it shouldn't be.
Well, it's more even like you could express almost pretty much any opinion. Then this is another great thing, and this is also a great thing for art. You could have your little Black Widow satanic song randomly, or lines like from the Godfather, like that line in The Godfather. Like, it sounds harsh and everything, it sounds mean, but it does add a realism and a grittiness.
Veritas.
Obviously people are out there talking like that. Yeah, it does. It's like, and anybody could say anything. You could strongly disagree. Like, I remember even seeing, I think not that long ago, a 70s chat show, and there's this woman on it, one of these beautiful 70s softcore pornish types. I think she was in The Story of O or something like that. You know that story? It's a 70s movie, 70s sex movie, basically, right? And
How would I
she
know
was
that?
carrying. Well, I don't know. It's a 70. It's classic. How would you should look it up. It's good. But
I've
what
heard
was she
about
saying?
it.
She was on a panel. So she was on some show where they were randomly picking up people from a crowd in a football stadium and making fun of them or something like that. And the guy was just like, "Oh, look at the, so and so," and then he was making racial comments. And she just like, being a typical woman, I guess, she was like very calmly disagreeing with him and saying, "No, I don't agree with that. You shouldn't do that," or whatever. But like in a very nice, civil, intelligent way. It wasn't like outrage and I demand this is canceled and screaming at him. It was just like everybody could speak their opinion, disagree, talk about it civilly. It felt like, anyways, it seemed like, and then carry on.
Yeah, it's sort of it's before the shock jock became the kind of the key part of a presentation on the air or on the radio, on the TV or on the radio. But this idea that you could actually have a civilized debate about things, and agree to disagree.
Well, it was even like, or to be like, even say you're talking about Monty Python. There was that big debate. There was a bishop or cardinal or some member of the big debate on TV, and they're trying to say, you're for the life of Brian.
Yeah, they had the arch.
It
was a bishop on there, I think, and Malcolm Muggeridge, who was a Christian apologist, a writer, and they effectively made fools of themselves. I'm afraid,
but and that may have gotten a little bit heated, even, but nobody stormed off or carried on the way they would now. Like, it was ridiculous fucking bullshit. So you could say and do. You have to have that freedom to be outrageous, I think. That's what inspired me to do Guts, which, again, I'm almost done. Still haven't put it out. It'll be out in a few days. But like, it was just like, there's some element to that of trying to be extreme, trying to piss people off in a way, like not in a, totally brutish and utterly rude way, but just like pushing a bit of boundaries here or there where you can, especially if you do have a bit of a chancy opinion, at least as long as you have a good reason and impetus behind it, then why not express it? Just
so
the fact that
I do remember.
I
I think that was in the 70s. There's a scene from a German talk show where some communist guy, of course, total lunatic, as all communists are, came up to the show, and to prove a point, something about anti-capitalism or something. He just pulled an axe out of his jacket, which he smuggled into the show, and said, "This is why right now I will smash this table." And then he started to just smash the table with the axe, and in a completely deranged manner. And that's
great.
That's the 70s for you, right? You could just pull something like that.
That's cool. That's like when Oliver Reed, or would ever see that Oliver Reed appearing on that chat show with the feminists or whatever? And he's like completely wasted. He's got these enormous spectacles, and his like collar's all messed up, and he's in there, and he's just making these ridiculous comments. And there's this angry American feminist there, and it's just the most beautiful exchange where it's amazing.
Yeah, it was like a late night show, wasn't it? A late night show, and there was a panel all sat around in the dark having a drink and talking, and he was wasted, I'm afraid. Yeah,
like imagine that. Let's get Oliver Reed wasted and put him on a chat show with this feminist that he hates. He's
like, oh yeah, that was 1971. I just looked it up.
The axe guy.
The axe guy, yeah.
I will have to look that up. That does sound cool. October says Robert Holmes wrote a lot of really good Doctor Who story arcs, more gothic than standard. I don't know. Do you know Robert Holmes?
Yeah.
Chris,
I think he was
you do?
One of the ones I mentioned.
You know them
before,
all?
Yeah. No, I don't know them all, but I know. There's certain ones, and they were just great stories. For a 25-minute episode on at 5 o'clock on a Saturday night, you'd have an appeal there, both for the dads and the kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. I know. Didn't Douglas Adams write a few as well? Or I don't know if maybe he was more 80s. I don't know if they were any good. I used to like Douglas Adams, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy guy. Pretty sure he wrote for Doctor Who before he did all those.
Yeah, he probably did. I don't know.
And there was
Yeah,
another guy that wrote a lot. Is it Terry something or other? Or
Terry Nation.
yeah,
He's
Didn't
the
he
guy
write a lot?
he invented the Daleks. Yeah, so he wrote for quite a few.
All right.
And
So
he
like
created Blake Seven. Do you know Blake Seven?
yeah.
He created that as well.
I haven't seen all of Big Seven. I've seen a few of them. I've never saw the famous ending. And Frank, do you know about Blake Seven and all this shit? Have you heard of this?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
I was a Blake Seven devotee. But then you had to watch it when it was on, because if you didn't, you wouldn't see it. That would be it.
It was odd, very odd. It's like Doctor Who, Frank. It's like a '70s TV show. Like this is the kind of thing that would go on there. An ambitious science fiction with like questionable special effects, let's say, but wonderfully written stories. And you're supposed to be on a planet. You're supposed to be on an alien planet in the middle of nowhere, but it's very obviously like a meadow somewhere in England or whatever. This
or a quarry. That was always a
quarry. They love the quarries. Yeah, they love a quarry. That's for sure. So, but it's just good, like well written, well acted, great story. If you but then a lot of people, especially Americans, I don't think would see past the where's the budget for the special effects, or because it was like a teledrama. It was a video. What's the word? Millennial Woes loves these things. He has a term for it. Is it video drama, or forget what it was, but it was just like the standard. There's so many good shows like that, and of that era. One was I, Claudius and all that. Was that 70s? That was 70s, wasn't it?
70s, yeah. I mean, the magnificent books, the Robert Graves books, I, Claudius the God. But the television series is special, and it's still special. It's one of those that just remains an excellent production, just brilliantly acted. Yeah, I, Claudius, that's another cracker.
And then also, this is another example of them pushing the boundaries and stuff you wouldn't see there today. Is they wouldn't be really scared of showing a bit of. I remember being scandalized as a kid. My parents were watching I, Claudius, and there's a scene where someone's head gets cut off, and there's gore, and they had like probably just like a fake looking prosthetic head, but they weren't. They were totally unabashed about flinging blood around. And then they had an orgy scene, and the women are topless or whatever, right? And this is TV, this is television, this is not a movie, right?
As long as it's past 9 o'clock at night, you're okay.
Yeah, but still, that's so different. I mean, now you can see nudity on TV, I guess, and all that, but like, I don't know.
I think in the 70s it was more genuine.
Yeah, somehow. How would you explain it?
Well, it had to work because I don't know what the situation was in Germany, but in Britain you had in the 70s you had 3 television channels, so they had to be good because they would guarantee, if they were very good, they might get an audience of 20 million people or whatever it is. So they had to be good.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't saturation.
I don't know how many channels we had, but there's like 2 main channels, and most people would watch those, right? And as I said, like one of those channels made that show where it's about the guy running for his life for $1 million, and it was believable enough because in the 70s they had all these
people called in thinking they thought it was real.
Yeah, they had all these big game shows, and they'd be getting more and more creative with every new show. And so they thought, okay, let's just do this film that people are definitely going to buy as a real thing, and see how they react. So,
you know what that reminds me of is when I was in art school, I knew. Sorry, I thought you were done there. Sorry. Yeah. But when I was in art school, I knew a guy from Hong Kong, Chi Ho, lovely guy, not great on the English, but he was into like metal and stuff like that, and he told me that there was a whole bunch of people in Hong Kong when they saw Mad Max or The Road Warrior, I think, the Mad Max 2, they thought life in Australia was really like that, and they all went down on motorbikes to Australia to like live the life of. They thought it was. He kept telling me how stupid they were. You wouldn't believe how stupid these people are. He's talking about his own countrymen, that they thought it was real. That was like a documentary or something. I don't know what the fuck they thought. They thought life in Australia was like this, so they all went down on their bikes and like. I remember him telling me that. I was like, oh yeah. Well, partially, I think. They do make a good like car chase movie down there. I guess maybe it's the big open roads that go on forever. But Canada was like that too.
Yeah.
I am an excellent stunt driver because I grew up in Canada. Because in the wintertime, we get our winter beater cars, we call them. Maybe in Germany there's something similar. You buy a shitty ass old car, or we used to, when you could do these things. Like you can't do this now, I guess. But you get like a $500 car that you don't give a shit about, and you just do stunts on the ice all through the winter, and you smash into each other. And we did this like a lot. So I feel like I'm not bad as a stunt driver. I remember my favorite trick was to like pick up girls and then scare the shit out of them by doing a e-brake 360 on like just like crank the wheel, pull the e-brake, and like, and they would be scared randomly out of the blue. This is a small town, right? You could do shit like that back then.
Guaranteed lasting impression.
Yeah. Oh shit. What else we got here? One for Frank. Welt Drat. How do you say that? Shit. October says one for Frank. How would you say WELT AMDRAHT 1973? Welt Drat. What's that? What's that mean?
Probably.
I don't know.
Which would mean
it's a
World Wire. It does not ring a bell.
What does it mean? World Wire?
World Wire, yeah. If it's spelled DRAHT. But it does not ring a bell for me. No.
Paul says Czech Republic has some cool 70s stuff, such as Adela has not had supper yet. Okay. That sounds like a good 70s thing. But
I don't know when it was made, but I think it was made in the 60s, maybe even earlier. But we saw it in the 70s, was the Singing Ringing Tree. Do you know that?
No, what's that?
It was an East German production of a fairy tale, and it's very, very bizarre, very psychedelic.
Oh, yeah. That's Singing the Klingende Bäumchen.
Yeah.
East Germans made some really good fairy tale movie adaptations. Yes.
Oh, communists everywhere made excellent fucking films. They made a lot of good movies, and yeah, for sure. No, there's no doubt about it. Yeah, I'm sure there's many hidden gems we have nothing about. Like Frank, do you know like many East Germans?
I have one friend from East Germany, yes, but he's a little bit younger, so
he doesn't remember it.
In the 90s, so not no longer GDR, but United Germany.
Yeah, so I know a woman who's like
some cool stuff from the GDR, but it's not very common here because I'm in the West, right? So
it's one of the strange things.
I know a woman who lives here.
Sorry, I was going to say it's one of the strange things about the Iron Curtain is I remember when I lived in South Africa, I knew a lot of Poles who had sneaked out and gone to live abroad, and but they had huge collections of folk tales, and which were all published in so they were really big on keeping those things alive. So a lot of stuff survived, either in spite of or because of the way things were behind the Iron Curtain, that were eroded in the West. So it's an odd thing.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, they to this day the Russians have the best continuation of proper like ancient like classical traditional oil painting, and all the best artists of that type can be said to have come from there, and that they kept it alive, and they did not sort of devolve into the Marcel Duchamp school of total abstraction and craziness. You know what I mean? They were apart from all that, and they didn't break.
While the West was pushing modern
things
art,
like this that you wouldn't expect,
right? The socialists over in Russia, they promoted socialist realism as the main type of painting.
Yeah.
Right. So
the sculptures with like the jagged front faces on the sculpture, so you'd have like a excellent classical bust, but like the kind of roughly cut, it would be like the planes. It was cool. It was cool. It was very cool.
What did we have? We had the CIA pushing abstract expressionism.
Yeah.
Well, they say the CIA. I believe it's somebody else behind it all. as I wrote about in my first book, let's say. The CIA may have dabbled in that, but only as an extension of somebody else, I think. But what was I going to say? Oh, John Gora says even the Carpenters were good. Yeah, they were okay. I don't love the Carpenters, but they weren't bad. I mean, compared to
Karen Carpenter had a nice voice.
Yeah, I mean, she was a good drummer and stuff. I mean, it's okay. I don't love it, but shit, it doesn't offend me. Like Taylor Swift or something would offend me.
Yeah,
I would leave her.
Like I was saying about ABBA, it's not my thing, but I can understand why people like it.
They got some good songs. They got some cheesy shit ones, but they got probably 10 or more genuinely great little songs. That's
it's a real. You can see they're talented. Talented musicians in terms of writing music as well. It's obvious, and I think that's a key difference. Well, I mean, when we were talking about doom metal at the beginning, I listened to these bands and I'm thinking, now how do these bands, the way that music is, it's so kind of narrow and strictured. How do they make a living? How do they survive? I suppose they just have to tour and sell stuff independently.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I guess for a lot of them nowadays, it's all very just a side project, right? Like
they more or less have to. They have to have day jobs. Yeah, they have to have a job and then do it on the side. Pretty much, like even ones you think are more famous and don't have to, I think generally do. They go tour and they make money and stuff, but like they keep a job going at the same time. Generally, I think.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw
even
that
some of the ones.
I saw that famous photograph recently of Led Zeppelin standing up outside of their private jet. I think it was a 747. The whole thing was theirs with Led Zeppelin written on the side of the plane. That kind of crazy world.
They had a fireplace in there. Did you know that? A working fireplace.
Just to surprise me.
There's photos of it. I had it before once, for real, and they're sitting around it inside it, throwing wood in it, and it's like I don't know where. I guess it just somehow went up the top. I don't know. Like an old-fashioned looking fireplace, which is funny. I mean, that's funny.
Out the chimney.
You wouldn't get that. Maybe we get that now from some fucking Jagoff rapper, some horrible fucking version of that.
No. Those rappers, they don't have the taste or imagination to do something this offbeat.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin always tried to stay grounded to some kind of folksy route, didn't they? They always had, they're always like, filming videos in Welsh castles and shit, or playing the mandolin but singing about Lord of the Rings or something.
What was their last album? Because that came out right at the end of the 70s, 79. Was it In Through the Outdoor?
Oh, yeah, I think that's the one. Yeah,
yeah,
I think so. Or there's like two last, and they were like not as good as the others. But my favorite of theirs is Physical Graffiti, which is a later album. That's my favorite one.
Yeah, that is a later one.
Yeah, I like that one.
Because of course John Bonham died in 79, didn't he?
Yeah, but they were kind of losing it. They were getting confused in the 80s. There was 80s stuff going on, and they were getting confused. They couldn't hang on. They were trying to like change with the times, I think, and because like after like the 70s, everyone could be just natural. They felt like they could just be themselves, do what they want. You can make a crazy shit ass movie like Caligula, right? Is it Penthouse that paid for that movie, and who made it again? What's his name? Oh shit. This crazy director and like the whole thing of it, right? The madness of it. Have you guys seen the Caligula? Have you tried to watch Caligula? Oh shit! Well, Chris, have you seen it?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen it. I was thinking
to see that. Oh,
but along those lines is a film like The Devils, with Oliver Reed. Which was
I never saw that. I've never seen that. I know the one, but I've never seen it.
And that was criticized for being excessively voluptuously violent, but people were doing that. It was really that edginess was there, which was definitely.
There was even that Faces of Death movie. That was a 70s movie. Remember that? What's that?
No, I don't know.
Wait a second. Was Cannibal Holocaust. Was
that Faces of Death? You never saw that?
Oh no, that's 1980.
Oh, Cannibal Holocaust. That's the 70s one.
That's 1980.
Really?
That's 1970s.
Well, technically, 1980 is.
It's
Okay.
the tail end. Yeah, it's still 70s in spirit.
You think about.
So you guys never saw Faces of Death, no?
No, I don't.
No,
You go. You
I
have to
did
give me a
not.
Can you
clue
hear me?
because I've. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Well, you
Yeah,
can hear me. Sorry,
yes.
I thought it was muted. I thought it was muted.
Yeah.
Oh shit! You're just
you
ignoring me.
no, you froze a bit. You froze a bit then.
Oh, again now? Shit. Am I frozen now?
No,
No, you're
no,
not. No.
you're fine now.
Okay. No, Faces of Death is when I was a kid, it was a big deal. You could get it on VHS, and I did get it at some point. And it was nothing but depictions of people dying for real, supposedly. It turned out later that a lot of it was faked, but some of it was real. And there was a horrific shit to watch. There was like a cult that ate dead bodies. I still wonder to this day if that was real or not. It was a 60s hippie cult, and they got a dead body and they ate part of it, and then they all had an orgy. And it looked pretty damn real. So I don't know. And there was another scene where this
How old were
delicacy
you when you were getting
in
these from the
somewhere in
VHS
Asia.
store?
I don't remember know where or how I got it, but I did. But I was early teens. I really should not have been watching it. But and there was another one. Yeah, the delicacy in Asia was to get a live monkey and kill it at the table and eat its brains, just like you later saw in Raiders Lost Ark. That was in Faces of Death, and you could see them do it for real. Apparently, it was some delicacy in whatever the fuck it was, and it was obviously horrific. And just the whole rest, I don't even remember the rest of it. It was just scenes of people committing suicide and dying and falling out of planes and gore and shit. You know, so, but yeah, that's a 70. That's just a 70s movie. Let's just going to scandalize you with scenes of deaths of different
Yeah.
kinds.
That just sounds like your version of what for us like growing up in the 90s and 2000s was websites like rotten.com. where you'd have all that kind of stuff on the internet. But
Well, the internet did
back
change things.
then,
Yeah.
source it from VHS.
Yeah. But still, like, okay, well, let's look at things like we know the best. Okay. So we know the writers, we know the movies. But say the music is maybe one of the most recognizable 70s things, which is like, I would say it's very hard to argue that music has been surpassed in terms of like modern music. Classical music is probably the best music ever, but in terms of modern music and all of its inspiration, you know, people still harken to those times. You might say the 60s was very good as well, but like there's so many legendary band names I could pull up from the 70s. It feels like. And they were doing something so crazy and original and that still has a genre going today of some kind. It's like even when you talk about doom metal, really when the doom metal guys were kind of retraced metal back to and like went in another direction, keeping the singing and the melody and the evil and the drugs. That's another thing. I was mentioning Electric Wizard I'm a big fan of that band, and they got some really very good songs. But I saw an interview with him, and he was on about how in the 70s and 80s, how metal was a serious business. And he's right. There was like, you know, people were getting killed over it, he said. And he mentioned some names, and I looked them up, and cases I hadn't heard about where people were like, young teenagers were taking acid and killing, you know, actually believing they were doing the work of Satan and killing other people and stuff like that. And they were taking metal to its to this horrific conclusion. But there was a few cases. There was one kid, and what's it called? I forget. But he just started spending all his time in the woods taking PCP and LSD and listening to metal with his pals, and that's all they did. And eventually, they decided to kill one of them in a ritual to Satan, of course. Which, you know, whatever, terrible, obviously, and crazy. I don't know how you could do such a thing on acid. Would you not be like? I would be the most trembling fucking bunny rabbit. I'd be like, get me the fuck out of here. I'm not killing anybody, especially on acid. Holy shit. Like, if I ever did kill anybody, it'd be because they were, you know, attacking me, or I would not be on acid. I'd be fucking, you know, no chance. Anyways, So there was several things like that around that time, and people that's a part of the satanic panic period, I guess, in the 80s. What led to that? But there was like some cases where it was like being taken literally, and it was becoming a serious matter, even though with the night soccer guy Richard Ramirez, wasn't he was always on about AC/DC and fucking, I don't know how much he was inspired by music, but that's a transgression, pardon me, but I forget. I was just talking about Electric Wizard because you're talking about Doom. Whenever someone mentions Doom Wizard, I think of them because that's my favorite kind of doomy band.
But I think what you're saying as well is that culture and the things that happened in media began to have an inordinate influence in that period, because media became massive in the 70s in a way which it hadn't previously been. There'd been the cinema, and then television started to come in. So I remember we got our first color television set in the early 70s. So that was this huge change. So I think that had a massive influence on the way people conducted their lives. And I think when you've got people who, for whatever reason, are on the fringe of doing something, insane, they'll latch onto that as well, but they'll take it to the nth degree, But I think that so you see it, like you mentioned about the serial killers and all these things feed from culture, and the culture was exploding in terms of the way the media was reaching people in a different way in that era.
For sure. So a couple people mentioned Arthur Daly here. Do you know what's Arthur Daly?
Yeah, that's he's the guy that we talked about before. George Cole played his part in Minder.
Oh, Minder. Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah, that TV series.
Oh, so I'm way back in the comments. Sorry, I'm like reading really old stuff. Petunia Winegum. Who's that? I don't know. I've never heard of that. Someone mentions Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Of course, that's a 70s fucking classic. Has that ever been beaten in terms of pure horror in a movie? I don't know. I mean,
you don't see a lot of gore in it. It's you don't see an awful lot because it's about what you imagine is happening in a lot of that film. There is some gore, but generally it's the horror of the implications of what happening behind the screen door and so on.
Still, just utterly horrific.
Yeah.
Again, a boundary pusher. It's sort of like, you first see that.
Yeah,
like,
and it was way easier to be shocking totally in the 70s, right? Like if you try to be that level of shocking today, you really have to overdo it, and then your audience isn't even going to be shocked.
Yeah,
because they expect it. Back then, Alien, right? There's that one picture of people watching Alien in the cinema, and everyone has like, whoa, this face, and there's just one guy. There's one guy sitting there with this expression.
He's loving it. Yeah, he's loving it.
Yeah, Alien, big shocker for the day, right? Nobody knew something like this before.
Yeah. That was what was Alien? That was 79, wasn't it? I think
something like that. Yeah, I mean, there's so many examples, like, and these are things like that created entire, not just genres, but like just such powerful influence, like, So, but like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I only actually very recently. I didn't realize. I knew about Ed Gein and more or less what he'd been up to, but it was only recently I looked into the details of what he had actually done. Which inspired Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and his whole thing was actually, which is portrayed in the movie, the creation of funny little sculptures and little artworks basically out of bodies. He was obsessed with this. It wasn't so much. I don't think he was he a transvestite as well? Maybe can't remember that part, but it was more or less he was obsessed with creating these things. He only killed two women. And only because he ran out of bodies from the graveyard. It wasn't that he was like, this super killer. It was just he was obsessed with this fucking making artwork out of bodies. Well, the retarded fucking reasons. But they do capture that in the film. That whole thing, like, the whole house that they show, this is like funny little cages made out of chicken bones and fucking bodies everywhere and all that shit.
Yeah, that's sort of whole thing about. That's part of the horror of it. I think, is that idea that it's just so macabre.
Paul says, Breezy would probably not be made today. Breezy, what's that? Just an already adult Clint Eastwood in a wholesome love story with a young, cute hippie girl. What's Breezy? Have you seen Breezy? Devil and Miss Jones, best porn movie. I've never seen that one. French Connection, great for random racial slurs. Yes, I will watch that. I mean, I've seen it, but I didn't see it for a long time. I don't remember that part. That director, who directed French Connection? Isn't that the same? Is it? Am I wrong? That's the same guy that directed The Exorcist.
Freakin', yeah.
Freakin', yeah. Who's, I think he was born Jewish, but he converted to Catholicism and like took it very seriously. Am I wrong? I think that's his story. But his favorite horror movie was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think. I remember seeing something about him talking about it. But yeah, French Connection was good, yeah. But again, like, yeah. The other thing great about 70s is there was always a good car chase. There was a lot of car movies with excellent car chases.
Oh, yeah.
It was a big thing, right? You ever see that show, The Driver, or something like that? Drive or The Driver with what's that guy? With the guy from Barry Lyndon? What's his name? You know, that American actor, Irish name? Fucking Ryan something or... You know Barry Lyndon, the actor from Barry Lyndon. He's in a movie about driving cars. And it's amazing. Yeah. The most amazing little car chases and stuff.
I know that I've seen it. What's his name? Someone in the chat will remember.
He was married to Farrah Fawcett. Remember her? That was their 70s icon of hair, let's say. the 70s bouffant, which the girls are doing now again. The kind of swirling cascade of hair that like comes and swirls and all that. You see it in particular on the American conservative girls on Twitter or on Fox News or something. They have these like, it's this Farrah Fawcett-ish cascade of hair. It doesn't quite come out as far as the hairstyles in the 70s. They're pretty crazy.
Yeah, Charlie's Angel.
When they moved into Charlie's Angel, but that was like late 70s. And that's when they moved into the 80s and the giant hair shit, which is still enjoyable. By today's standards, extremely enjoyable, in fact. Like, wonderful. Just massive fucking hairspray inventions. But, that's a good example of where I feel the aesthetics and the perfect, wonderful experimentation and the somehow almost traditional aesthetic or some kind of aesthetic that worked continually began to fail is when they moved into the 80s. An element of kind of cheesiness entered into it. Something began to fail. You could sense it a little bit in the 80s. I don't even know how to describe it exactly, but I know that eventually that everything succumbed to it, and I don't know what it is.
Well, talking about fashion and stuff, actually, I really like 70s fashion. Right? A lot of people make fun of it, but I do think the pants look cool. I do think they had really great cuts in the jackets. Right? Great hairstyles, great facial hair. 70s style looked great, honestly.
I'm wearing a 70s jacket right now, like a leather jacket I got in France.
Nice.
It's still going. It's like nothing wrong with it. You know, it is from the 70s. And I have like one of those like crushed velvet jackets, like the red ones, like Paul McCartney used to wear in the Christmas or whatever. It's also still going. It's a 70s number.
Get out for special occasions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with a little red bow tie or something, right, on Christmas or something. Right.
I think you're saying about the shift into the 80s. I just think everything is mirrored. The society had these kind of in the early 70s. You have oil crisis, and then you have Nixon and the Vietnam War still going on. You said earlier about the 60s dying, and then you've got that kind of legacy into the 70s. Black Sabbath's Children of the Grave is a good example of that. I think it's like a call to the youth. It's like a hippie thing in some ways, but it's talking about nuclear annihilation, and so there's this kind of hangover from that period. But there's a huge amount of uncertainty creeping in. So you have this, and I think visually you still see the certainty up until the 80s. But because things are just slowly getting, you have communities shifting and starts to happen there in a way.
Yeah.
So you have, and you have,
like globalism,
yeah,
or the, is that what you
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely. You have this, so this move away from a community centric kind of that most of us or most of our ancestors would have known. That starts to shift and fracture a little bit, and there's a lot of materialism comes in. I can remember when food begins to change. Small things like this, but there's all these little things in the mix. So there's the certainties are kind of getting a bit rocky somehow. And there's lots of factors there's things happening in education that are changing the way people are thinking. There are negatively and positively, but there's so all these things are kind of shifting and floating around. I just think there's a malaise starts to set in, and it's a normal part of the cycle, I guess. But
well, you could say that, but I don't recall. Yes, it probably is normal and cyclical. As a perennialist, of course, I do believe that as well. But like most, like my my whole business online has only ever been to speak about things culturally and aesthetically, and make comments on artistic things. So I get embroiled in this whole political world because it really is the main influence on why things are not the same anymore, or why it's going this or that direction. And of course, things must change, but it just feels like something set in that is entirely unnatural, and there's no, there's an imposed oppression that what you need to create art is being suppressed, like,
yeah,
willfully, even though all these other boundaries are opened up and changed, and we have the internet and we can do so many other things, this and that. We're still kind of living off the fumes of these other things. Like, even when we're talking about modern doom metal, they're just like really imitating Black Sabbath and these things. There's nothing. I mean, there is new stuff that happens, but it feels like innovation could be a lot better than it is. And it feels in my lifetime like it's been slowly getting more and more crushed and dissolved.
well,
and all I ever wanted to do was see more and more innovative art. But it still is out there. I can still find good films, and I can still find good music, new stuff. But it just feels like it's so much less than, and I would like to.
I think the thing is,
figure out
when
why
you
it feels
try to create
unnecessary.
new art today, right? You have to go
Mhm.
back to a sort of root from which to grow up out of, right? You need a
Yeah,
certain foundation, and you can only find this foundation nowadays in things from the past, which is why we have so much stuff that tries to recapture older genres, be it of
yeah,
literature, of music, of film, of even of video games. You always go back into the golden ages of these mediums, and then try to start fresh from there, right? Like there's a lot of
yeah,
bands that do the 70s and 80s style metal, but put their own spin on it. But first, before they can do their own spin, they have to go back to the roots and rediscover what it's all about. Because
yeah,
like right now, in the current cultural sphere, there isn't really anything to go off of, right? Like, and that's with EG, and it's a 70s, 80s style magazine, right? So you and we're also going back, then creating a new identity in it, right? But by
mm.
first looking back to the roots.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
and I think you're really going to like the next Aegeon that I. Oh, go on, and then I'll talk. Go on, you first.
no, I was just going to say I agree with um, what Frank's saying, and I think your thesis in your book, I totally agree with. Something is undermined and eaten away. There's been a process of change which isn't necessarily organic, and I totally agree with that. And I think, but I also think, yes, absolutely, that talent does still exist. It's just
Mm.
shifted from the mainstream in terms of its exposure, and occasionally it will, but so you have to it has to, but like a kind of a growth that a hydra, you chop off a head and two more sprout up. It can't be stopped. it will just come, you know.
Well, it's moved beyond now the just artistic ruination and stagnation into like physical, economic, and culture. You know, widespread
Oh yeah.
disillusion and pain.
My eldest daughter's planning on a trip to New York at some point, and I was talking to her about Concorde, and I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, would it be great? You know, get on Concorde. It'd take you a lot less time." And
Yeah.
and I say, "Why don't we have that anymore?
Yeah.
Why don't we have that technology? Because I don't
It's
think we
gone.
can do it." Yeah.
That's a 70s invention right there, Concorde. Yeah. So there was a lot of things peaking in the 70s. And in the end of the 60s, I mean, we landed on the moon in 68. Humanity, Americans, you know. And yeah, it's I would say it like I'm trying to put it into words when I have the thought in my head, but I'm failing. In terms of art, I mean, it's weird because everybody can do everything they want now. Like if I think of innovative art, oh, that's what I was going to say. In the next, I think we're going to like the next Aegeon because I'm going to change it a bit. It's going to be a full color thing with more, and instead of doing the opposite, which would be so much easier, which is to abandon the art part of it, the visual art part of it. I'm going to like double it and make it full color and make sure there's something on every page and make it a bit, because so far, as Frank said, I have been imitating the stylistically the golden era stuff, but it's time to put something new into it as well, I think, because I do believe, as I said in my first book years ago, and sometimes I forget this myself, that any good new thing, anybody who's an artist or appreciates art like we do of any kind, literature, music, whatever, they investigate, they look into they hear something and they think, holy shit, that's blown my mind, whatever, right? And then they look into they hear about the bands that inspired that person and they go back and they just obsessively find out where's the root of this crazy original thing, right? And usually there's some kind of madman at the root of it. But what I personally discovered is what generally there is somebody who took usually from their own tradition, their own culture, two different things and mixed them together crazily, and you know, two inspiring things, and tried to make a random combination of them. So you have to go back and you do have to start afresh from the golden age points if you want to be as good and as original as you can, and like if you want to get the wellspring of the incredible creativity. But part of the secret is to mix things together a little bit. So I'm going to do that on the next age jump, since I spent so much time on this guts thing doing something else entirely. But it's important. I think it's important to at least two or three things. Randomly, maybe I'm not explaining myself as good as I can, but like I'll think of an example. Let's say in terms of music, well, let's say thrash metal was a mix of new wave of British heavy metal plus, I think arguably, I guess, punk rock kind of stuff like Misfits, plus maybe even classical music, like Cliff Burton was a big classical guy and shit. I don't know, but it was like a crazy mix of those things, right? You know, so you pick your influences and you just things that you wouldn't expect to mix together, you try to mix together. And then
I mean, generally in metal as a whole, especially in all the traditional waves of it, you have a very strong classical music DNA.
Yeah.
So it's very strong in there, because ultimately it's a continuation of European excellence in music composing.
But to have something original, which is important, you must strive to have something original, as well as like to have that inspiration and to be working from that point of excellence, but like also adding something different that hasn't been done before. That's what has to be done, and everybody must always do that. Try to do that, and so that kind of, but you don't see that level of experimentation with that as you would have in the 70s, where somebody might do something so crazy. Even like I said before, Caligula, where it's like basically an erotic penthouse movie, but it's also this classical scene, this thing, you know, the story of Caligula, as told by Tacitus, I believe, you know, which I believe is totally exaggerated. Like I don't know.
It
Did he
is.
make his horse a senator? Did he have sex with his, all this crazy shit? I believe, because I think the Romans had a habit of accusing an unpopular emperor with sexual decadence and stuff. So that all these things were written about him. I'm not sure they're true. I don't know. I'm not sure, but at least, mostly are partially true. But they also made it into this erotic, sexy movie of the time, with not just gore, but like there's some scene. I remember there's a scene in Tacitus's or in Tiberius's palace with like crazy two-headed people and mutants and just like whatever, right? As he's swimming in his swimming, like dare I say, shit. This is in Tacitus. I've read it that if you're to believe Tacitus, Tiberius would swim every day in a pool while getting young boys to nibble on his penis like fish.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And they tried to recreate something similar in the movie. So I don't know. Could that be true? It sounds like, I don't know.
Yeah, this is like absolutely slander, but it's fun slander, right? You don't get that level of slander anymore. Nowadays, it's
Oh,
have you frozen, Frank?
oh shit!
Yeah.
It's always him. Yeah, I thought it was me. Whenever that happens, I assume it's me. I'm so glad you talked. I thought we were all unmoving there like statues. Like, oh shit!
I thought I'll move. Yeah, I was just going to say, is it true? Well, I suspect worse things than that go on today.
Manfred Roos says Zardoz. Oh yeah. Whether it goes on, what my point is about the movie though. So it's just like a crazy porn movie, but it also has an art to it. I don't know. It's just a mix of things, and it's like without boundaries. Just like, let's do this fucking insane thing and put a bunch of money in it. Frank really is genuinely frozen up there, isn't he? He's all fucked up.
Yeah, I keep getting connection issues here. That's
right.
down to my internet connection.
Oh, thank God it wasn't me, because if it was me, the whole fucking
thing. No, as I was saying, like today you don't even have that cool level of slander anymore, do you?
Slander? Like what? What do you mean slander? What's the cool level slander?
The thing with the dick nibbling in the pool.
The slander of the as if
of the emperors. I think the funniest one is Elagabalus.
I mean, they were like the Greeks and Romans were pretty fucking sexually depraved, but still, some of the shit like Caligula making his horse a senator, while fucking not just that, like shit, the supposed list of things he did. I don't know, like as portrayed in the movie. I don't know, but it's a great movie to watch. It's like, but it's also kind of trash, like not just in the sexy theme, but in like it's entirely decadent kind of a thing. I don't know how to describe it, but it's interesting. I know Frank's saying again.
Yeah.
You've just been in a
time for an hour, but now.
Oh, he's froze up again.
I think he's in.
Someone mentioned Zardoz there. This came up this Zardoz came up recently. Was the last time we were talking Zardoz?
Yeah, you were going to a party.
Yeah, I did go to the party. Yeah. And they're all metal guys. It was all like heavy metal shit. I actually filmed a couple of little quick streams there last weekend with my buddy Luke, who does write in Aegeon as well. And just like he was wasted, and I asked him something. He's always on about Stalin. He loves the Red Army. He thinks it's the most brilliant fucking achievement of mankind was the Red Army, and he loves Stalin and stuff like that. So I thought I'd ask him about that. But yeah, Zardoz was filmed in. I was at a party at that property where Zardoz was filmed, or parts of it, anyways. Because Borman lives out there, or did. He must be dead now, is he?
Oh, I don't know. Gosh.
He was out there. He lived out that way, so he filmed all the shit. He filmed Excalibur out there. You look at Excalibur; it's very much it's the Powers Court waterfall. I go there all the fucking time. The scene where he fights Lancelot, and there's a big waterfall, right? Like I go there all the time.
Yeah. That's a beautiful film, but that's not. It's not a 70s film, but it is a beautiful.
It's 80s, is it? Yeah. What year was that one?
Must be 80s. Yeah.
Is it though? Are you sure? Maybe. Yeah. Probably. Ooh, Frank's gone altogether. Ooh. Dylan Roth says, here I'll have to. Gareth Thomas could not be more Welsh. Who's Gareth Thomas again?
Blake 7.
Oh, the writer.
Yeah. No, he was the lead actor in Blake 7.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, he was in loads of stuff in the 70s. Even, do you remember Children of the Stones?
Yeah, right. That's a good one.
He was the dad.
The music is like, oh.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And it's still creepy. You know,
it is.
It's when horror stuff was made for kids that was great for adults.
I like any science fiction story, and you wrote one. I loved it, based on like speculation on the standing stones and all that shit. I do like that.
Well, you know, some people don't like the term, but I do love folk horror. I do love the, you know, that those echoes from the past.
Yeah, I do believe the Stone Tapes is the best version of anything like that. Yeah, such a good idea. I thought the Stone Tapes.
Yeah,
that the Stones are recording everything, or like it's like they go to this building, a castle or something. I can't remember what, but they start seeing ghosts. But they have all the scientific equipment for whatever reason. I can't remember what. And then eventually, instead of just getting scared, they begin to realize that the stones are like a recording device, and they're playing back bits of history where people were killed or something like that.
Yeah.
But then on top of it, there's a Lovecraftian type ending where the entity in the stones is so much more ancient and comes out and does something horrific. I can't remember, but it was good.
And it spawned a whole generation, and it's still going on to people talking about the stone tape theory. You know, so you'll see paranormal investigators talking about the stone tape theory, and it comes from Nigel Neal. It comes from that.
No way, really? No way. I didn't know that. And that's like, I mean, that was a TV show. That's not even like a theater movie. That was another BBC or Channel 4.
But you know, like another in science fiction, I mean, like Philip K. Dick is a good example. People who are kind of on the. Were you spitting for Philip K. Dick, or was that the end of your cigar?
I got a bit of. I've got a bit of tobacco in my mouth, so I spit it out.
But yeah, you know, it's how prescient they were, and I think Neil was tapping into that kind of zeitgeist as well, and sort of came up with that idea. So someone in the chat will now say that Neil didn't make it up, but I kind of think he did. I think it just became a thing after that.
So, being a fan who knows about this guy, what else did he do that I might never have seen that would be also very interesting to me, just out of curiosity?
Well, have you seen Quatermass, the 1950s Quatermass?
Oh, is that a?
So basically,
I switched to my phone because somehow my internet connection.
That's okay. You still look wizardly.
You turned it off and turned it on again. It always works.
That's almost more wizardly to use that. Almost with the angle. It's good. I like that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Quatermass was. It was in the 50s. So it was a time when the Brits still believed that they could, you know, because they had this British space program, and they sent in this story, and they sent an astronaut into space, and he came back infected with this thing, and it's basically the scientist Quatermass is got to find a way of stopping this creature. So it's classic, you know, it's horror sci-fi, an encounter with aliens or an alien thing, and it is very Lovecraftian too in that sense. And then Neil went on and did a very controversial television production of 1984 with Peter Cushing. And it's very good. Peter Cushing plays Winston Smith, very true to the novel. And it caused such controversy because of the torture scenes. There were questions in the House of Commons about it and this kind of thing. So Neil's been very important, and he went on to do. I mean, in the 70s, he did a whole kind of Wrath of, you know, the Stone Tape. One of my favorites is called Beasts, and
I love Beasts.
That's Nigel Neal.
The one with the little homunculus in the walls of the cottage. You ever see that? That's the best one. Yeah.
See, that's wonderful folk horror. That one, you know.
No shit, amazing. Yeah.
And
some of them are kind of silly. remember the one about the dolphin. That was a bit silly, and the fucking
Yeah.
a few of them aren't that great, but that one was amazing. Like a whole film should be made about that one.
Yeah, it's my
Frank, you'd
favorite.
love it. Frank, you'd love it. Folk horror. So like this woman, what is it? She finds their
So that
Yeah,
her husband's a vet, and they've moved to a country practice and having the cottage renovated. And when they they knock down part of the kitchen wall, and they find like this mummified thing that's looks semi-human but could almost be a monkey. And it's effectively
a cross between a monkey and a pig or something. It's fucking and a really nice little prop design thing because it looks genuine and spooky. Like whatever the fuck that was.
And he gets his boss in, the vet, and so the two vets examine it. So, oh, we'll take it away and look at it. And his wife is completely freaked out, and she's pregnant, and and all the people who lived in that house had always had stillborn children and all this kind of thing. So there's this dark history, and it's
there was some theme about how it was bad luck, and one of the builders that's there is it keeps telling her you must destroy this, you must burn it.
Yeah,
and but her husband's fascinated by it and wants to have it examined. And classic. I forget how it ends badly for her. And like pretty horrifying. But like anyways, just excellent stuff.
Classic materialists. You see, this is the trouble. And I think it's like repetitive patterns. It's like when they have these haunted houses and you see these paranormal investigators and the people are telling their story and they say, well, we burned some sage and things quietened down for a little bit, and then they got really bad. You've got to follow the patterns. Yeah, Nigel Neal's brilliant, and that series Beasts, and there was a few others, in the 70s but I don't want to dominate it with horror and that kind of thing. But it's there was what was it? There was what was the other one called? I've got a blank. There was you could be guaranteed on any day of the week you would find a good horror anthology or a good horror story being with a good range of actors and good writers.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, it was Frank. Send me a private chat. I got confused there. What the fuck was that? Yes, you're right, Frank. That's obviously what happened. But yeah, shit. I forgot about Beasts and all that. For a while there, I investigated every folk horror thing I could find on the internet. One thing that came up that blew my mind also was Sapphire and Steel. You ever see that?
Yeah.
That was completely insane. I've never seen such an insane. Imagine that. Like, there's a good example. It barely made any sense to anybody at all. If it did, in any way, they didn't give a shit. Right? There was no explanation, really, for what was going on or why or
interdimensional spook hunters.
Yeah, something like you got this impression of something going on, and the first one I saw was the craziest one, and they're like, it's got Joanna Lumley, and she's pretty hot, and she's going around, and this swan is coming out of nowhere and attacking her. She's like, whoa, and like at no point in the show is an explanation given as to why this swan is appearing out of nowhere and attacking, like this crazy shit, like just crazy. Everyone must watch Sapphire and Steel.
Yeah, I'm very creepy. Very creepy.
I have to look that up. I have never heard of it.
And it ends badly for them. The last episode, they get trapped in like some nothing place forever. That's the last episode of the whole of this brief series, where they're like trapped in eternity of nothingness or something by these tricksters.
And if you incline that way to look at nice 70s babes, Joanna Lumley's a very nice 70s babe at the time. She's, so
she also did some like softcore Euro trash nudie stuff.
She did,
which I was most pleased to see. Of course she did. Oh, of course she did. Here, let's look at some more questions. What have we got? I'm gonna start setting up the. I have that thing. What's it fucking called? There's some other. Since I got demonetized, there's another way to like get paid questions through this other fucking thing. I must do it next time, maybe. Why not make these fuckers pay for this amazing wisdom? Paul says, I'm half French. I'm sorry to say French 70s stuff is very lackluster. Oh, okay. Mostly boring drama, new wave BS. Wow. So the Brits
yeah,
really,
it depends. It depends on what you're looking at. I mean,
yeah, you would know, right? Go on.
I do quite enjoy the movies of Jean-Pierre Melville, his crime dramas, where you got usually very professional criminals doing their job. You might have heard of Le Samurai, which is
Yeah, I've heard of
about a contract killer, very well shot. Although they do tend to be a little slower in pace, so you gotta have a bit of patience and appreciation for the craft, right? But there's some great neo noir going on in that time. Like the 70s are a great time for episodes, right, and stories in general. So it's a great resurrection of the noir genre that was popular in the 40s.
And this is like, are you talking about TV shows or just movies?
Mostly film, but yeah, I'd say maybe in literature too. I don't know what it looked like before, but generally the 70s, from what I've seen, seemed like an era where all that gritty crime stuff, right, floated back to the surface and became popular.
Because if you watch like a 70s talk show, more often than not, you'll find like Orson Welles or somebody talking about a French
Yeah.
filmmaker like Godard or somebody, you know, and talking about how they were the greatest new filmmakers of any kind anywhere. Mostly through experimentation of actual filming, I think, than having any
Yeah.
kind of crazy story so much, right? Experimentation of style in technical.
Yeah, French
photography.
70s film is something that's really cool if you're into the style of film.
Mm.
It's more something that someone who likes movies should get into, just as
It
as a
bears
craft.
looking into. It certainly bears looking into. I did see an
Yeah.
interview with one of them. I don't know if it was Godard or there's a few that are famous from the time, and I remember seeing one, and like again, the intellectualism of the conversation, where the interviewer, whoever it might be, Dick Cavett even or somebody, and the subject, you know, just the things they are talking about. And in the French guy's case, maybe it might have been slightly pretentious in some ways, still extreme, or like, you know, they might have who's that guy, Fellini or somebody like this, right? And at least Fellini would dip into fantasy and stuff. You can argue that he would make a kind of a fantasy movie. What's that Roman theme movie he made? Satyricon. You ever see that?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say about. I mean, people like Fellini, and then you get like, you know, even documentary filmmakers like John Grierson, and all that seeded into the 70s.
Well, Fellini was very active in the 70s, I think. No,
Yeah,
wasn't that
I
his
mean,
what?
that legacy continued from the auteurs from the 50s. You know,
Yeah. It was really those decades, like it was really 50s, 60s, 70s, and each one was different and fed into the next. And then 80s was kind of the same, but then it kind of like 90s, like Millennial Woes and some others love the 90s. I always just think, well, it's kind of like the
I
80s
think
with some
there's still decent stuff in the 90s,
There
but
is. No, there is, but it's kind of like you can feel it petering out, I feel, you know?
yeah, it's starting to peter out, and I think there's still some stuff I like in the 2000s, but like by the 2010s, we've reached the point of no return, essentially, right?
But like, you know, like we say this, but we're still, there is still stuff, but
yeah,
There's still stuff, but the mainstream is lost,
yeah, the
essentially,
mainstream
right?
is lost. Yeah, exactly. That's what we're talking about.
You
Yeah.
have to go digging. You have to be your own cultural archaeologist if you
Yeah.
want to discover the stuff that's worthwhile.
Yeah.
And
Because in the 70s, like pretty much everything, and the
yeah.
60s and the 50s. I mean, you could watch, you know, Leave It to Beaver or fucking,
Oh yeah, and speaking of gritty
what was
crime
that
stuff,
60s show
I
with all
just
the hippies?
remembered another
What was that 60s?
70s
Oh, sorry. Go
film
on.
I really like, and that was really great, is Death Wish with Charles Bronson.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
where he just goes around killing criminals.
yeah. I
There's
love revenge films, and
yeah,
they really. I mean,
Yeah.
the Charles Bronson Death Wish really begins that kind of genre, or kicks it in a way that's really becomes popular throughout the decade and onwards.
Also, quite a slightly racist movie. Yeah, as I recall. But yeah,
Yeah, also
but
there's
like
a bit of a sleazy rape scene there, but
oh,
not quite as graphic as in the sequel. The one in the sequel was way too overboard.
listen to me. I saw that when it came on TV late at night when I was too young. I don't remember what age. I still feel traumatized by it. It was my first kind of like, more than that affected me more than Faces of Death or any of the other shit I was telling you about. It was the rape scene from Death Wish 2 when I was too young to see it. Because we were staying up. It was a sleepover with some pals, and we were staying up late, and we had the TV on when we shouldn't have, and it came on the TV somehow, whatever, on the 3 channels. And I remember being like, "Holy fuck!" Just the idea that anybody could behave this way, because they just didn't just rape her; they raped her and killed her, as I recall.
Yeah,
Right?
two.
Lagoons.
There were 2 characters that got raped and killed
Fuck,
in the same
whatever.
movie because
I
once
remember
is
being
not enough.
traumatized. I remember being traumatized and coming
Anyway,
to grips with it.
I'm switching back to the computer because
Why?
my phone's running out of battery here, and
Oh,
I don't
Jesus,
want to
somebody's
use up
wrong.
all my mobile data.
All right.
So let's see.
Oh, look, I can have you on both at the same time. Let's do that briefly. Wait. Oh, it's double Frank. Oh, and it's gone.
We're getting very interdimensional.
Interdimensional, yeah.
It's like the 3 doctors.
The 3 doctors. The best one of those was the when they had all. I think it was 5 doctors. Was it 5 doctors? When they had all the ones up to and including, I think the guy after Tom Baker, the blondie guy, the guy from All Creatures Great and Small. What the fuck his name?
They used Peter Davison. I think they used an actor for William Hartnell. I think he'd passed on, but yeah.
Really? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think so. I think so by then.
All right. Okay.
And Patrick Troughton had his fine mop of grey hair by then.
It was a good story, though. It was a quality story. You'd think it would just be like the shitty get-together thing, but no, it was good. I remember being like, "Wow, that's great." They found a good excuse in a way, like because they're all traveling through time, anyways, right? They all meet up. They all, find a way to come together at this one point. It's such a like ludicrous idea, the whole thing, and now it's been so thoroughly pissed on and destroyed.
I know. Well, every sort of Christmas special they have all 20,000 doctors now.
Oh, are they still doing that? It still goes on.
I suppose. So.
I haven't even tried to watch it for like decades, basically. I think I saw a few of the first ones when that gay guy tried to revive it, and they weren't bad. There was that guy doing it from the north. What was his fucking name?
Yeah, Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah, he was all right. That was okay.
Well, he quit because of the. I mean, he said this at Comic Cons and things where he say, they say, well, would you ever return to Doctor Who? He said, yeah, I would. He said, but sack Russell T Davies, and he goes on. He lists them all. So he just couldn't stand the politics that was going on behind the scenes. So.
It wasn't so prevalent then, but I saw some later on where it was so obscene and like they turned the Doctor gay. They were trying to say he had sex with one of his male. There was some suggestion, anyways. I was like, "What? You just turning everybody gay?" And like,
yeah,
they did that to fucking James Bond too. There was a James Bond at one point. One of these, what's the guy? The big pouty guy. Craig. Russell Craig.
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
And there was one where it was a shitty movie. It was shit, anyways. But like the bad guy is gay, and he's said something to Bond like, you wouldn't know the troubles of gay, or you wouldn't know what it is to have sex with a man. And Bond goes like, well, how do you know? And he makes a little gay looking face. I was like, holy fuck! God. So they've gone from the machismo, womanizing guy to now he's a gay.
Didn't they even replace?
Why am I sitting through this? Why am I torturing myself with this?
In the last one.
What's that?
In the last James Bond film, like the latest one, didn't they have like a black female sidekick who essentially replaces him as the main character in that film?
Oh, I don't know.
I wouldn't nowadays.
Nothing could convince me to watch another one again. There's a point where I totally gave up.
I haven't seen the film. I'm not very interested in these modern deconstructions of classic franchises.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, not interesting. They're just badly done.
Even without that propaganda, that liberal propaganda, it's shit. It's boring.
Yeah.
It's just garbage. There's nothing good about it. This is but this is the problem we have so I tuned out of the mainstream in that sense. I mean, I was already cynical of the mainstream, right? I would always be like, oh, this underground stuff is so much cooler. I was always like that. But at some point, the mainstream stuff became so terrible. It was like, it would intellectually insulting. It was like, I cannot watch this for a fucking minute. But then you ignore it and you try to stay away from it. But then you realize it's affecting the youth and they're growing up with it. And it's kind of turning them gay and they don't know about art and they don't know about the good stuff. And this horrible malaise, it's this horrible thing. And then
I think I've been completely tuned out.
It's partially cured by the internet in the sense that everything's available, like most things are available to everybody. But
but you got to dig, right? You got to dig, and most people don't do that.
Exactly.
It takes real effort to find the good stuff, unless you know people who will tip you off.
And most people exist in that mainstream sense, so it really does have a profound effect. It makes a huge difference to not have, a proper guidance.
We're very fortunate that the back catalogue is very, very large and very, very good. So
but there's it's so sad that we're not able to. Well, we should not only be able to produce at that level. We should be even better in many ways.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing I've been saying for a long time about these sort of resurrection movements, right? Of old school styles of whatever cultural product you're making, like old school music, old school stories, old school games. It's always, they're just trying to recapture. But what we should do is we should grasp the principles of the time, right? Of the things that were great back then, and then push them to the next level. Like go to the next level based on the principles that established the great stuff. Not just recapture what it is, but we have to understand the essence and then go further from there. That's what we should do. But very, very few artists do that. So
that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do with Guts and with the next Asian. A little bit, as much as I can, in whatever way that I can. But I'm definitely trying to move past just being sort of a nostalgic recreation-y thing.
But that's what I was saying. I think it will happen. What will happen is that the talent is there, and people are starting to do it, and they're starting to get the tools that they can do it without having to have a big budget Hollywood backer. So it will happen. Yeah. It's just it's a restart, and it'll happen organically.
But they still have control over
what that first wave of people just remaking old things.
Well, okay, but let me just say this, as you guys know, as self-publishers, right? They still have control over what so much matters on the mainstream, as in what the average person gets access to, and what is widely distributed, what is, advertised broadly in a expensive sense, right? So there's still that issue that, you can have the internet, you can have everything for free, and you can have access, but you still have to overcome that part of it. You can have a runaway virality if you're lucky, but that would still be the problem. And even though with everything appearing to be kind of free and available, is that there's still a kind of mainstream thing, a consensus maintained through, how algorithms and fucking all this bullshit, right?
Yes, and it presents the paradox of, well, if you want to succeed and you are noticed, then you have to change what you're doing in order for it to be presented. And so, but I even think those things will change too. I think that as it stands now, it's a failing enterprise. I'm talking about your Amazons and your Primes and so on. I think they're making a lot of money, but I think those weaknesses are so endemic that those structures will start to topple, and then they'll look for the alternatives, or somebody with money will look for the alternatives. So there is a possibility of that kind of backing in the future. But I think it's just a matter of time.
Maybe, yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking at the comments here.
I'm positive.
Russell's original cut of The Devils can't be seen anywhere, not even by Russell. Why is that? Who knows? D. Marley says that.
Yeah, I heard this recently in an interview with Oliver Reed, and he was talking about that. I'm trying to think whether the tape was lost or I can't remember.
D. Marley says, "How about Salo?" That is a '70s film. The guy was a communist though, and it's about he's like. Ever seen Salo? The fucking.
I've not seen it, but I know about it.
See, you guys are missing out a little bit because I had this thing in my youth in Vancouver in my early 20s. There was a video store in Vancouver called Black Dog Video when you would go and rent VHS tapes, right? And they specialized in obscure, crazy, horror, fucking fucked up shit. Not just horror, but like anything like crazy. Like so, I would, and not only that, but I would go in there with my buddy Darce routinely every weekend, and we'd say, "What's the most fucked up thing you have?" And we would watch it. And one of them was one weekend, and like there was this hot little horror chick in there, like a goth chick, leather trousers, fucking hot as shit. And we were always talking to her like, "Hey, you know." Remember, she invited us to one of her parties once. We were so excited, but then we fucking lost the phone number and we never went. But she was hot as shit. But and she actually was the first person to introduce me to a band. This is another good example of 70s innovation. Goblin. You know the band Goblin, right? Like how weird and original is that?
They made so many soundtracks for what's his name, Dario Argento's films.
Yeah, but like just great music, great, bizarre, totally, fairly original. Like just what the fuck is it? Like, that's a great example of a '70s band. Like that's just like, I don't know, like excellent and totally unique. But anyways, I mean, it was the first time I heard that. She introduced me to that. But she one weekend we went in there and rented Salo, whatever you call it. And it's like a recreation of a Marquis de Sade story, but it's by this fucking communist jerk off gay lord, an actual gay, and so he makes the bad guys into fascists, and the fascists like get a bunch of kids, men and women, and just like do every sexual thing you can imagine with them for a week or a month or I can't remember what, and then kill them at the end. And it's the most depraved, crazy fucking thing. They do everything in it, like eating shit, whatever, and then just kill them. Like it's fucking insane. And yeah, I mean, someone brought that up in the comments. I mean, there you go. There's a '70s film for you. Even though I politically completely disagree with the director, etc., but like it is, something to see. But there was another '70s one she recommended to us, and I've never seen it since. It was called Sweet Movie. Now, if anybody's seen this, you do tell me because you know what I'm talking about then. And that was the craziest fucking thing. That was even crazier. I don't even know how to describe it. You just have to watch. Look it up. Sweet Movie.
Sweet Movie. Right.
Sweet. It was amongst the things where I would go to the store and like she would be like, something like Cannibal Holocaust to this chick would be like, Leave It to Beaver or something, right? So this is her level of.
A 1974 surrealist comedy drama film, written and directed by a Yugoslav filmmaker. Okay, that explains everything.
All right. And what else is there? What else is Sweet Movie? It starts off with a contest for who has the best pussy, and it has all these beautiful women, and they're like being examined by like a doctor guy, and it's like, but it's like a game show, and they're like, hey, hooray, the prize winner. And then the heroine is this woman that wins this prize from this contest, and then she goes on and has these other adventures and shit. But whatever. Listen, it's crazy. It's just crazy shit, but interesting. It's not like something you would see now. And these things would have kind of like a budget. Where would they get their money? Like, it's not like they would be like cheaply made necessarily either. I don't know.
Well, it would be all calculated, and they'd know there'd be a market for certain types of things, and they'd say, "Okay, we'll make enough back, so let's go for it." You'd have lots of small backers as well. The monster that is movie making now is just gigantic conglomerates.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just reading the comments here. Hold on. Shit, there was quite a few, but it's like, yeah, conglomerates. I'm trying to think of what else she recommended. I wish I could go back because a lot of them we would have saw. And like, my friend Darcy will remember. My friend Darcy to this day, he's funny. He's a guy my age, but he obsessively ever since then and to this day obsessively collects obscure, extremely heavy music on vinyl. So he knows every kind of black metal, death metal band you can imagine, and like the heavier and more obscure and underground, the better. The more the more he loves it. It's like he's continually in a search for the heaviest thing he can hear, and he has the most vast collection of death and black, like whatever else, grind gore, gore grind. Sorry, whatever. He's just got it, and he knows it, and it's quite funny. So, he never left that. He just got deeper into those kind of obsessions, away from the mainstream. Let's say, away from the light of the mainstream, which is cool. I mean, he's a great resource for such things. But he's not like a person who ever wanted to make art himself. He was just purely a fan. But he knows all these films, and he knows all that music, and he would agree with us about the 70s. He's always on about the 70s.
Well,
and that's what makes me think of it, because he'd always bring it up, like the 70s was the best time. And I always be like, yeah, but usually when you talk to normal people, even like, especially people our age, let's say, Chris, not so much Frank, but I don't know, maybe Frank, your experience is similar. They usually they think of it negatively. Like I said, they just think that it was somehow a lost or terrible decade. Is that your experience?
A very long time ago. Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of. I think there's a lot of hankering for that kind of era still, even amongst the. I don't have a wide experience of it, but I've got a 15-year-old daughter, and she listens to 70s music as well. So
your daughter's 15. My son is 15. We should get them to meet up. No?
Yeah. you pay the dowry.
Arranged marriages. We'll have an arranged marriage. Well, yeah, go on. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, I was just, but she's that that age, and she's listening to 70s stuff. So I don't know. It's but going back to what you were saying about your mate collecting all the kind of the obscure metal, I think that's a very male thing as well. The sort of the collector thing. I think it's something that's it's we get into things.
The more obscure something is, the more likely I am to like it, because right, it took some effort to find it, and digging it up itself is already part of the fun, right? So
uniqueness, as well.
Yeah.
That's why I'm very happy to be checked out of the mainstream, because I get to go on the hunt and dig stuff up for myself. It's a lot more interesting that way.
Yeah. It is cool, yeah. And that's why there's a certain genre of story, in fact, that I really am a fan of. That one of the last half-decent John Carpenter films I saw, even though it ended badly, very badly, in fact, and he kind of lost an excellent premise, was I saw it on YouTube. What was it about? It was a short film. He made nothing but shit for years, but he had a return to force and the idea of a film, at least, about a movie. I don't remember the name of it. You can find it on YouTube. At least I did. Where the concept is, there's a movie out there somewhere, an obscure cult film that no one's ever seen by an obscure European director, a horror film about an angel or something like this, where supposedly the rumor is the director caught a real angel and cut his wings off and put him on display in a horrific kind of satanic display or something like that, and anyone who even sees the film is cursed or something like that. I don't remember the details because it's been many years since I've seen it, but they're very much an homage to what you're saying, the cult underground and like seeing a film that's so blasphemous and crazy, and so this guy must see it. The whole premise of the film is this guy, he's got to find it, he's got to see it, and then he does, and it is as described.
It's like
But like that's just the ending. Like the whole premise is this guy searching. He must finding people. He's like, no, I have to see it. Show it to me. And everyone's telling him like, no, you don't want to see it. You know, you never ever want to see it. And right.
the cursed artifact.
Is that what it's called?
No, I said, but it's like, you know, like Chambers, the King in Yellow, or the Necronomicon. You know, it's sort of you want to see it, but if you read it, you're doomed. You know.
John Carpenter, excellent 70s director, right there. Actually, a good example.
Yeah.
Although his best one was The Thing, I think, which was what was that 80s? Is that
80s?
or
The Thing is 80s. Yeah.
Might be like 79 or something, but yeah.
No, I think it's 80s. But, it is one of the absolute best.
When did he make The Fog? Was that 70s?
Yeah, definitely 70s. The Fog. Yeah, excellent film.
That's a good film.
Oh, fucking excellent. And what else did he do that was good? I mean, he did a lot of good ones. Shit. But then he got really bad. His Ice Cube phase was very bad. And what's the one with James Woods? That's not very good. Something about vampires.
Vampires.
Is that what it's called?
I think it's called Vampires. Yeah.
I didn't like that very much. They Live was his last really good one, but this one I'm talking about was the ending's not great. But because you know why the ending's not great? It's because he doesn't just like he could have just ended it with the guy finding the film and watching it and being like, ah. And actually, the angel with the wings cut off looks pretty creepy. It looks very creepy. But then he has to add a part where the guy finds the real angel in the back or something that is unnecessary. That just to add a bit of extra drama to it.
Do you think that was meddling by a studio, or do you think that's Carpenter messing up?
I don't think it was by a studio because it's like a small. You guys, have you even heard of this film?
No.
No.
Yeah, it's not a mainstream thing at all. It's you might find it on YouTube. It's like a short. It's weird because it's a short film, but it's like at least I think it's maybe 40 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes. Something he made in like, and this is probably I would have seen this back in I don't know 2014 or something like or 2010 even. I don't know. So much time goes by. I've gotten so old that I don't even.
Oh,
Chris, it must be the same for you. You don't even like, you know. I wasn't even sure how old I was the other day. I was like, shit, how old am I? Like, I was not sure.
I know. I was thinking.
Let alone when something happened, like especially with this business, with the decades no longer being discernible, and everything since like 2005 being the same shit. You know, it's just like, okay, well, what fucking year is it, or what?
Yeah, it feels like since 2010 or something. I felt like things stopped progressing culturally, or
I'm a
identity.
I'm a style bore with that. When we're watching something, watch a movie or something from a particular era, and I'll say to my wife, you know, look, you can see it looks. If you saw that set today, say it's a 90s film, late 90s film, or an early 2000s film, I say if you saw it today, would you know that it was that era? I think it looks the same. I think things have stayed. You know, if you see a set from a hotel room from 1950, it's markedly different from something in 1965 was, you know.
Yeah, I can still identify 90s and 2000s films just by the way they're shot, the way they're designed. But yeah, when it comes to like interiors or architecture, clothing, things like that, right? It really doesn't look any different anymore since for over a decade now.
But this is a part of my like theory, let's say, because even say we're talking about the 50s, and there was a lot of great stuff in the 50s, but the 50s was pretty similar to the 40s and the 30s, so aesthetically, in terms of art and you know, in these various mediums we discussed, right? So it's like there was a stylistic explosion of creativity from the end of the 50s that petered out in the 80s.
Yeah,
maybe you can say that. And what was the source of it? Would be if there was if we could determine what caused that exactly. Was it the psychedelic drugs or whatever it might have been? could be a valuable lesson to learn. But I'm not sure it was just that it was like a combination of things. It was.
Yeah, I have theories, but I mean, I think you're right. It's multiplicity of factors. I think there's political shifts, enormous political shifts, which ripple out into everything. Education is overturned, so they start to question all those kind of standards that have been constructed from the past, or at least it accelerates them dramatically, and that's because figures are changing in the education system and so on. Yeah, so I think it's multiple factors.
Well, like let's say it began in the 50s, arguably. And again, I think of Poison Ivy from the Cramps, and her obscure underground rock and roll music shit. And there was a kind of crazy stuff because there was a lot of crazy stuff in the 50s, like Romero's Dawn of the Dead or fucking Night of the Living Dead, or there was some fairly crazy things.
But people were coming out of 2 atom bombs as well.
Was that shit?
In the 40s, this generation were being born or were coming out of that era where this effectively was an apocalypse that that had gone on and it affected everybody.
Yeah,
and that must have an enormous kind of effect on the zeitgeist.
You had like big names like Asimov and shit.
Yeah,
you had like the Beats. Who really, the hippies were just like an extension of those guys.
Yeah, and they were an extension of the healthy living and the vegetarian groups and that kind of thing that had proliferated in places like California in the 20s, well, even earlier in the teens,
and
all that kind of thing.
Yeah, they've been around for a while, that kind of thing, and we're like, that's why I love it.
And in Frank's Germany, I think it was the Wandervogel movement in the early years of the 20th century. So you have all that kind of thing.
We are really more like those guys than anybody else. Like the modern Beats in a way, right? Are we not? Like really? In the same way you can like they weren't necessarily politically one or the other or this or that. Like
I'll get my beret.
If you look at even a later beat like Hunter S. Thompson, let's say, a funny guy, great funny guy, I love that guy. But like he was not. Certainly not. I mean, I know he was leftist ostensibly, but he would not be a modern leftist. That's for fucking sure. I saw many a poem and a thing where he's using the N-word and shit like that. Like he's not like, it wasn't like a person today. So we are closer to that tradition of people than I think. I don't know, and whatever, and like because they were all about sort of telling a truth, observing the world and telling truth. Which is a very old tradition.
Yeah.
So maybe we're bards in that sense or something.
Well, as much as they might have, and this applies to the painters as well, but as much as they often rejected the traditions in which they were steeped, they were still steeped in those traditions, and that may not have been passed on to the next, but they still had it, even though they might say, well, so it's an echo of what they were taught.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like when we don't fit into like a category of like politics comes into it, and it did then. Like whenever I meet, say, a very obvious hippie type person, but they're red-pilled, I find a kind of delight in that. And I feel like this is the natural state of such a person. It should be really. Yeah. Because they're kind of a wacky, truth-seeking, bohemian.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, and be close to the earth, and that's all great,
Yeah. I do think it's like more natural for them to be like that than the opposite. Even though it's become more associated with the opposite. To be whatever the fucking modern people are. They're not communists. They're neoliberal, censorious whatever
Yeah,
the fuck.
like if you're in tune with the earth and nature, then you should also be in tune with the truth, essentially.
Well, like natural, like natural law, essentialism. You have to be if you're going to be in any way natural or close to nature, then you have to have some connection with the realities of nature. Let's say, right? You have to be able to kill your own meat and survive, and usually such a person is more connected to harsh realities, not to someone who shirks away from them and censors them and runs away from them. Generally, but this is a whole political side of things we don't have to get into necessarily, but it's just a curious observation. I just thought of that now, just that the fact that we are more than maybe the children of the beats nowadays than anybody else, even though we're very obscure and niche in our own way. I mean, look at us carrying on like wizards on this fucking internet shit.
Yeah, I mean, I keep mentioning education, but I'm sure I've used this example when we've had a chat before. But I often think about people like Tolkien and Lewis. There in Oxford, and they were so well educated. They were so well read. They could speak Latin and Greek, and Tolkien, old High German and all the rest of it. And I think we've lost that kind of incisiveness in education, where we don't have people who are really steeped in Homer and classical mythology and languages.
I've read Homer. I'm a big Homer advocate. I'm here to teach you about Homer.
Yeah,
but go on. Sorry.
No, but I mean, I just think that's a part of the unraveling of the fabric. Is that, and I'm not knocking teachers. I'm just saying that the system has become unfit in many ways. I don't know. It's just an observation.
Oh, it's true. Yeah. Dylan Ross says,
It's
"Let's
also
scare Jess."
interesting. Sometimes it also comes from the students, right? Like back when I studied at university, we still had, like, my university was one of the last ones in Germany to go through the new reforms, where the old German magister was replaced with the bachelor master, right? And while in transition, they discussed what kinds of requirements you should have. I studied history, and a lot of the students, particularly the ones, the leftists who want to study history of the 20th century, socialist countries, stuff like that, their whole Marxist theory of history. They all said we want to not have to learn Latin as a mandatory thing, right? They didn't want to. They thought it would be useless for the thing they want to learn. But our professors, they insisted to keep Latin as a requirement. And I fully agree that if you study history, Latin should be a requirement. Right? Like, you can't understand history without it. And so at that university, it's one of the few in Germany where if you want to get a history degree, you have to be certified in Latin. Like, there's no way around it. You have to do it. And that's a good thing. But among many students, there is this attitude that, oh, I don't need it, so I shouldn't be forced to learn it. This sort of dismissive attitude, which is very bad.
And I don't pretend that I don't speak Greek and I don't speak Latin, and you really don't want to hear my German. You speak excellent English. Look,
I do want to hear you. Now you say that,
No,
I do want to
no,
hear
you don't.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Sehr schlecht.
Oh, that's not bad. That sounds
That's
bad.
good
That's
enough.
better than I would do.
The pronunciation is good enough.
I wouldn't know if I can know that shit. It's difficult. It's hard as hell.
But it's just. I just think it's like it's a slippage, and I don't think it's a uniform slippage. I think it happens here and there in different ways, but there's a slippage, and I think that's part of the path back is a reconnection.
Well, let's face certain things. There's no path back. There's only
Yes,
the path forward. There's only the path
the-
forward.
but the path forward.
If we become too nostalgic, there's no use. There's no,
Yeah,
and there never was a path back because everything is going to change some way or the other, anyways. So it's been abysmal art-wise in terms of finding new creative things. Oh, it forces us more underground, but
you know, but the path back is just
Robert Anton.
Don't say the path back is just to a picture we have in our heads. That's what I mean.
No, I know what you mean, but I just think we should think of it as we must create the new thing, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's not going. It'll never be the same as it was. That's gone. But we must, in the same spirit, at the same level of actual creativity, and not just now we're in a vacuum of like negativity, where it's like you're not allowed to, in the mainstream sense, to be do anything that follows in line with your own history and culture and kind of stuff like that. That makes it even impossible.
Yeah, we got to be what the Renaissance was to antiquity, right? Actually, that relationship.
Yeah, we do need a new Renaissance. So the only way we could bring it about is we can't just reintroduce paganism strictly or anything. Like, we must reintroduce something new, whatever it might be. There must be some way to combine things in a bizarre fashion that would be striking and new. Whatever it might be, any of these things we're talking about. I said there is something that doesn't have the taint of sort of derivative,
But I do think that you build upon foundations all the time. So like Dave Martell's always talks about the Tolkien's pot of stew, when you dip your ladle in when you're storytelling, and you'll pull out. It's the same stew, but you're a different person. You're in a different era, so you're bringing your flavor to the pot. So you build upon traditions as you move forward, and I think
ideally, yes. But we do have to reach into our own tradition. But I do think it's not just a matter of you personally. It has to be like an idea of combining things in some new way, something unexpected, in a more blatant sense. Like Tolkien, even I'm not even. I've never actually been the most massive fan of Lord of the Rings. I do love it. I like it quite a bit, but The Hobbit was always my favorite of his, in terms of a perfect little encapsulated story that just summarized the whole world in a perfect little. I know it's a bit more childish, but I have a great Tolkien story. A guy I know, this Irish guy, his father grew up in Oxford, and his father, also an Irish guy, but he lived there. He grew up there, anyways. I guess he's English, but he's Irish by name. Let's say he somehow lived his whole life without knowing anything about Lord of the Rings or Tolkien in terms of his fame, nothing at all. But he happened to grow up in this place, whatever the area is, and he knew these two characters, these two rich guys on these properties, and one was Tolkien, and the other was Major Lewis, as the guy knew it, which actually turned out to be C.S. Lewis. Yeah. And this guy's telling me all these only in recent years has this guy. So this guy was like, okay, Major Lewis, and I forget, he wasn't sure about Tolkien either, because he called him something else as well, and he wasn't like, okay. So this guy I know, like a dad in the school, right, had the theory that, okay, maybe he's talking about Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, and he went and investigated, and indeed he was. He had no clue that they were these famous writers. He just knew these, and he had the stories about Major Lewis being a real dick and chasing him out of his. And he said Tolkien was a real nice guy. He let you in there to steal his apples and shit. But he went his whole fucking life, and still to this day, his dad has no interest, doesn't give a shit. He was like, okay, whatever. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it's good.
But it's shit. We're going on 12:30, so I think we should shut her down. Let me examine these fucking questions for a minute. What do you guys have to say about all this shit?
Well, I heard that the Bird and Baby, the Eagle and Child pub in Oxford, where Lewis and Tolkien used to drink, has closed down, which is sad.
Oh, really? Recently?
Yeah.
Yeah, lots
I
of
don't
pubs closing in recent years, sadly.
But yeah, there's another bit of. I think Ray Bradbury's bungalow was demolished. This is back in the 2000s, I think. I got that from the Robert E. Howard Foundation. They're doing a drive now to try and raise money to restore Robert E. Howard's house. So if you're into Howard, have a look at the Robert E. Howard Foundation if you want to support them. It's definitely a worthy cause. I wish I could make the pilgrimage there to Cross Plains, but yeah. So that's where I got the Ray Bradbury bungalow thing, and I think Lovecraft's house isn't a protected house either, as well. That's another one. I'm going down a nostalgia rabbit hole now.
Oh shit! Well, yeah, why not? You know?
Oh, what? Yeah, go on. I'll tell you this after the stream.
Oh shit! Okay, well let's shut her down then pretty quick. Immortalizing comic book says there has to be a spiritual belief that explains metaphysics as physics, thereby proving a new understanding of the true nature of reality and our place in it. Well, you will never get anything so lucky and fortunate and simple as that. I can guarantee you that. If I know anything about life, it's like there'll be no. You never expect a simple pat explanation for anything that satisfies all your needs at once and explains everything in totality. There's no chance. And reality does not want to be fully explained and encapsulated, and it won't be. And thank God for that, because if it was, that might be the end of it. We must always never understand the mystery. We must always just touch on the mystery. And then all this art stuff that we're talking about is to do with that. You must touch on the mystery of truth while reaching for the truth, but like only for the purpose of expressing yourself in some fun, creative way. Not trying to capture it like a bird in a cage. That's my answer to that one. What were we going to say? Tell me after. All right, then. It's all over. That's it.
Cheers, man. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do it. We'll do it soon then. Maybe next weekend or whatever. All right.
I'll tell you my story very, very quickly.
You want to do it live, yeah?
No, we're still live. Okay.
We're still alive.
Yeah, I'll turn this off. Sorry. Okay. Goodbye.